Hello， 大家好，我是利恩。马斯克自从担任 DOGE 美国效率部长上任以来呢，已经为我们揭开许多美国不为人知的资金流出的内幕。想必大家一定都很好奇，就是 DOGE 他们到底真正发现了什么，以及美国政府如何系统性的去支付了一大堆无效、浪费，甚至说是贪腐、诈欺的行为呢？今天这支影片非常的精彩，这是最近的一次美国共和党的参议员 Ted Cruz 呢，我们之前也介绍过他非常精彩的议会表现，而他今天特别专访 Elon Musk， 就是要好好的深入的来谈美国政府过去这些不为人知的脏钱以及黑幕是怎么样的被马斯克的团队用有效率的数据分析给发现。
Nice。
今天会陪大家一起看，并且做一些深度的解说，那就让我们一起来看这个资讯量满满、非常有价值的一场访谈。我们一起来看 ，Let's go。
We're in the White House right now, and we're here with my friend Elon Musk, who really has not been doing much of anything, has not made any news, and nobody has noticed the impact. Welcome, Elon.
Thank you.
Holy crap.
Yes, wow.
Let me just say...
Never a dull moment.
Never a dull moment. The first 50 days the president has spent in office, over the top. And the first 50 days you've spent, I don't think there's ever been anyone to have an impact the way you have at the beginning. Let me start with a question you know a lot about. Which was worse, the mess you found at Twitter or the mess you found in the federal government?
Well, it's hard to compete with the federal government.
What surprised you about the federal government? I assume you came in and assumed it was bad. Is it worse than you expected?
It is worse than I expected, but on the plus side, that means there's more opportunity for improvement. So if you look on the bright side, there's actually a lot of opportunity for improvement in federal government expenditures because it's so bad. If it was a well-run ship, it would be very difficult to improve.
So
so now it's like people say, well, how do you figure out how to save money in the federal government? Well, it's like being in a room where the walls, the roof, and the floor are all targets. So you shoot in any direction,
and you're
you can't miss.
Wow.
Again, I'm sure you would agree.
So a lot of folks have talked about like
you can't miss.
You can't miss.
You can't miss. Yeah. Just go in any direction.
A lot of the crazy expenditures, things like $2 million for sex change surgeries in Guatemala,
An essential.
transgendered mice and Sesame Street in Iraq. A lot of that has gotten attention, but some of the stuff you've told me about, tell us about computer licenses and government agencies.
Yeah. So most of what DOGE is finding, you don't need to be Sherlock Holmes. Okay, it's very obvious, basic stuff. So in every government department, I say every because we've not yet found a single exception. There are far too many software licenses and media subscriptions, meaning many more software licenses and media subscriptions than there are humans in the department.
Like you were saying, like an agency with 15,000 people might have 30,000 licenses.
Yes.
and even of the 15,000 employees, a good chunk of them hadn't used the license, had never logged on or used the application.
Yes. We found entire situations of software licenses or media subscriptions where there were 0 logins.
Wow.
So it had
and yet we were paying for it.
Yes, so the government was paying for thousands of licenses of software or media subscriptions, and no one had ever logged in even once.
Or like credit cards. You found the same thing with government credit cards.
We found that there are twice as many credit cards as there are humans.
Could
that's just
and I still don't have a good explanation for why this is the case. And these are $10,000 limit cards. So it's a lot of money.
Is it incompetence that you're finding, or is this like the biggest money laundering scheme in the history of the world that you're finding?
Look, I think it's mostly, if you say, look, what's the waste to fraud ratio?
Yeah.
In my opinion, it's like 80% waste, 20% fraud. But you do have these sort of gray areas.
Yeah.
So,
Example
would be, we saw a lot of payments going out of Treasury that had no payment code and no explanation for the payment. And then we're trying to figure out what that payment is, and we'd see that, okay, that contract was supposed to be shut off, but someone forgot to shut off that contract, and so the company kept getting money.
Wow.
Now, is that waste or fraud?
Yeah, both.
Both.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean,
But
both.
it's
Yeah.
sort of
If
a
you
gray
know you're
area
getting something
because
you're not supposed to get.
You're not supposed to get it, but the government sent it to you, and nobody from the government asked for it back. Or take, for example, the $1.9 billion given to Stacey Abrams, a fake NGO.
Utter insanity.
Explain that. For people who don't know the story.
That's corrupt. That's just corrupt, I think. That's paying off cronies at that point.
1,000%.
Yeah. And by the way, she knew. Like when you get $2 billion, you don't miss that. That's not...
It's not an accident.
That's not...
Allegedly, it was for environmentally friendly appliances or something, and they've given like 100 appliances so far for $2 billion. It's a very expensive toaster oven.
But they're really nice.
One hell of an appliance.
That Sub-Zero fridge, boy, it's nice.
刚刚提到这个 Stacey Abrams 那他其实是过去民主党的一个参议员，也是一个政治活动家。他旗下有一个叫做 Fairfax Action 的非盈利机构。那马斯克发现到美国政府长期的在支付他费用，可是呢换来的只不过是目前送来给联邦政府大概100台的所谓的精致的家电用品，那却支出了高达20亿美元之多，这个非常惊人。那刚刚 Ted Cruz 就说，第一个，你不可能收到这么大量的钱，你会没有注意到。而你还默许你收到这么大量根本不成比例的这样的费用，通常有一点道德良知的人都会觉得政府是不是有出现状况，会跟政府这边沟通嘛，说你怎么莫名其妙一直在发钱给我，对吧？而政府这边呢，居然也没有人去要求把这些莫名其妙一直不断在支出的款项给请回来，所以这个你说他究竟是浪费还是诈欺？这就是刚刚马斯克讲的。马斯克真的是一个科学家，他其实数据上都非常的精准，非常的客观哈。他讲80%是浪费，20%是诈欺。我认为他指的是说，他可以确定定义的诈欺是20%，但是如果按我们一般人的常识来讲的话，这种不清不楚的灰色地带，更大的比率其实都是诈欺。那这点也是让我认为马斯克他就不是一个政治人物，他不会刻意拿这种事情来大做文章，他只是很具体的。透过他专业的大数据团队，快速的找到政府这种潜在不知去向的支出，而我也认为这就是马斯克最宝贵的示范。
This is obviously one of the biggest scam fraud holes we've uncovered, which is really crazy. Is that the government can give money to a so-called nonprofit with very few controls, and then there's no auditing subsequently of that nonprofit. So there's no. So this is with the $1.9 billion to Stacey Abrams, they then give themselves extremely lavish, like insane salaries, expense everything to the nonprofit, buy jets and homes and all sorts of things.
Live like kings and queens.
Yes,
on the taxpayer dime.
Correct.
You mentioned
and this is happening at scale. It's not just one or two. We're seeing this everywhere.
Now, one of the things you told me about is what you call
insane.
Magic money computers at the Treasury. So tell us about it, because I never heard of that until you brought that up.
Okay, so you may think that that the government computers all talk to each other, they synchronize, they add up what funds are going somewhere, and it's it's coherent. That there's and that the numbers, for example, that you're presented as a senator, are actually the real numbers.
One would think.
No, they're not.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, they're not totally wrong, but they're probably off by 5% or 10% in some cases. So I call a magic money computer any computer which can just make money out of thin air. That's magic money.
So how does that work?
It just issues payments.
And you said there's something like 11 of these computers at Treasury that are sending out trillions in payments?
They're mostly at Treasury. Some are, but there's some at HHS, there's one or two at State, there's some at DOD. I think we found now 14 magic money computers.
14, okay.
They just send money out of nothing.
You have an ability to see where leverage points are and how things actually happen. So I remember back, I think it was September, October of this year, before the election, we didn't know who was going to win, and I was at your house in Austin. We were talking about it, and you said, you said, look, I don't want a job in Washington, and you said, all I want is the login for every computer. And I remember thinking at the time that sounded kind of weird, like I just didn't get it. And I have to say, what's interesting on this, if I would have thought, like, okay, how do you reform government? Like, sort of the traditional way to think about it is, okay, give me an org chart, let me sit down with the people who are running agencies, And what you saw immediately is to understand what's really going on, get to the payment systems, get to the computers.
Yeah.
Why is getting to the computers so critical to understanding what's actually happening?
马斯克刚讲就是他们已经发现美国政府各部门里头目前总计大概有14台劲爆的，就是所谓的叫做魔法资金电脑，Magic Money Computer。这些电脑呢，它可以直接像美联储一样我们都知道美国为了要去执行大量的支出，那举的美国国债又不见得各国都会买，对吧？所以美国就透过美联储凭空就生出了一大堆的钱，让美联储来跟美国购买国债。换句话说，就是自己印钞票，然后自己买自己的国债，那这样子钱就出现了，对吧？这就是我们耳熟能详的货币量化宽松。这个东西今天大家都习以为常，但是呢，这里面最大的恶果是什么？就是我们看到现在美国政府是干脆连演都不演了，内部里头就有这些可以凭空只是打数字就可以在电脑上发出支付美金的一个形式了。这个就是我美国政府爱发多少钱，我爱花给谁就带多少钱。你会知道，货币其实一旦脱离基本位置，从某种角度来讲，货币最后只会变成数字化而已。而今天全世界最大权力者美国，他就可以自己来决定他要给别人多少数字。那这里呢 Ted Cruz 就提到一个很有趣，他说他在去年碰过了 Elon Musk 在他的家中的时候，那时候Elon Musk 就讲到一句话让他很百思不得其解。Elon Musk 就说，我根本不需要这个白宫做一个什么职位，只要能够让我有一个计算机的权限可以进入就好。Ted Cruz 现在才明白，马斯克是真正一语道破，一眼就看透如何要去看穿美国政府运作本质的人。马斯克很清楚知道说，其实只要掌握了电脑终端机的进入权限，基本上你就可以清楚的知道一个政府它是怎么运作的。我不得不说，这就是马斯克跟我们一般人不同的地方。OK， 一般人都以为还要有一个政府部门的架构图，对马斯克来讲那个都不重要，重要就是看钱怎么花。就好像你看钱怎么花，或是钱怎么进来，你就知道一个公司真正的运作方式。这并不是只是在于马斯克是一个成功的商人，我认为这个还是展现出了他惊人的高智商 IQ。但是我也不得不说，其实川普委派马斯克做这么样的一个公开的深入的工作，某种程度上川普展现出来的决心并不是单纯对民主党的贪腐的腐败而已，因为我相信这里面也涉及到很多共和党过去的一些议员，很多共和党人的利益问题，这个就是他们正在建立的透明政府。那我们之前也做过一期影片，就是Jordan Peterson乔老爷子特别在谈目前川普、马斯克还有小劳勃甘乃迪他们所建立的透明政府带来一个新的曙光，非常推荐大家去看。
Well, the government is run by computers. So you've got essentially several hundred computers that effectively run the government. And if you want to know...
Did you know that, Ben?
No.
Yeah. So when somebody... even when the president issues an executive order, that's got to go through a whole bunch of people until ultimately it is implemented at a computer somewhere. And if you want to know what the situation is with the accounting and you're trying to reconcile accounting and get rid of waste and fraud, you must be able to analyze the computer databases. Otherwise, you can't figure it out. Because all you're doing is asking a human who will then ask another human, and finally usually ask some contractor who will ask another contractor to do a query on the computer.
Wow.
That's how it actually works. So it's many layers deep. So the only way to reconcile the databases and get rid of waste and fraud is to actually look at the computers and see what's going on.
So you...
That's what I call... That's what when I sort of cryptically refer to reprogramming the matrix, you have to understand what's going on at the computers. You have to reconcile the computer databases in order to identify the waste and fraud.
I don't know that there was anyone in Congress who understood, certainly myself included, who understood the leverage that comes from the computer and the data in particular. That Congress would think about, give me a report on what your expenditures are, rather than actually getting into the pipes. And I think that has been fascinating, that it's let you uncover a bunch of crap that just nobody knew.
Yes. I mean, in order for money to go to a bank account, it's not like we're sending truckloads of cash all over the place. We're wiring money.
Right.
We're sending money through the ACH system or through the SWIFT system. So in order for money to flow, it's going to flow electronically. So that's what you need to look at. You need to look at the actual electronic money flows.
And Tesla and all your companies, you have accounting and you have every expenditure, you have it coded for what it's going for. Federal government doesn't work that way. They don't code what the money's going for.
They do now.
But they didn't.
They didn't.
And like one of the things that you told me, you said if any company kept its books the way the federal government does, they'd arrest the officers and put them in jail.
Yes. If it was a public company, it would be delisted immediately. It would fail its audit, and the officers of the company would be imprisoned.
马斯克刚刚就是说到，像在他们这种特斯拉的大公司来讲，他们的每一笔支出全部都要编码，好，就是要编上一个代号，才能去追踪我过去每一个支出，好，到底花在什么地方。联邦政府现在的这种审计模式都没有对这种资金做编号。如果这种情况发生在一般外面企业的话，企业本身早就已经被监管会给盯上，甚至会因此犯法入狱。讲白一点，就是这就等于就是可以做假账的情况。所以很讽刺的就是，一般企业执行管理的模式没有套用在管理联邦政府上面，而联邦政府可以随便花钱，甚至怎么花的，这笔钱花到哪里去，完全可以没有人知道的这种情况。那更不要说刚刚前面提到，政府现在发放的许多的许可证是多过于员工的数量，还有信用卡居然是超过员工数量的1倍。简单讲，有太多的幽灵人口是可以来使用这些许可证，以及可以使用这些美国政府的信用卡，是不是很恐怖？背后有一群看不见的幽灵，都在不断的在吸美国政府纳税人的血呢？
他在香气啊！
好，当然了，我必须客观的讲，你说这些钱都是纳税人钱，其实也不是，因为它根本就是一个美联储这种印钞票的行为，根本跟纳税人也无关。就是自从量化宽松以来，其实美国根本它最主要资金收入早就不是依靠纳税人的税金了，它真正靠的就是自己无中生有的技术。好，那这个也是我认为在经济理论来讲的话，这个潜藏的风险是最大的。
That's the level of malfeasance in the federal government, unfortunately.
It's stunning.
Deliberately, or do you think this is incompetence again?
It's 80%. It's 80% incompetence and 20% malice.
So if you look at DOGE now, and you look at the government and what you're finding, what percentage have you guys even gotten to, and how much of it is Mars, where you haven't even gotten there yet because there's so much you're finding out here? I mean, how many? You seem like a timeline guy when you say, all right, I want to get in there and get all these, numbers and things. How far are we from the end game where you've seen it all, been able to process it all and fix it? I mean, are we years away, months away?
Not years. I mean, I'm reasonably confident that we'll be able to get $1 trillion of waste and fraud out, and that meaning that we'll have a net savings in FY26, which starts in October, obviously, of $1 trillion.
Wow!
Provided we're allowed to continue, and our progress is not impeded. And we're very public about what we do.
Yeah, you put it on the website.
Fact,
It's on the website.
I don't know how we could be more transparent. Right. Literally every action we do, small or large, we put on the DOGE.gov website, and we post on the X handle. And when people complain about it, and they say, "Oh, you're doing something unconstitutional," I'm like, "Well, which of these cost savings?"
You're doing it in the daylight. I mean, everyone knows exactly what you're doing.
Extreme transparency.
Yeah.
I don't think anything's been this transparent ever.
这点我真的佩服马斯克哈。他不但在DOGE去追查这些，那民主党就一直攻击说，你们这些都是违法违宪啊，因为你们好像东厂一样在四处咬人，随便砍预算、砍部门哈。可是没有啊，马斯克他把他们所有做的事情，包含他们所有查到的事情，全部都公开在DOGE的网站上，欢迎所有的民众上去查阅。那我必须说，这个就是一个透明政府。我真的很佩服一件事情，就是川普为什么有这么大的一个决心跟魄力，能够携手马斯克一起建立这一次，恐怕是目前最大规模的一场透明政府的执行计划，就是把所有的政府预算都摊在阳光下供民众检视，也包含了删除不必要的预算，把我删除的正当性与否，我全部交给公平好大众可以来评断。好，那我个人是非常非常高度欣赏的哈，所以我不得不说，其实目前可能没有一个国家能够敢做到这样的事情。
So 5 years ago, you were a hero to the left. You were cool. You had electric cars. You had space. And in 5 years, you've gone.
I could go to a party in Hollywood and not get dirty looks.
Yeah.
In fact, yeah.
And
Now you might not even get invited.
I think it's
Still get invited, but I don't know if I should go.
And I don't think it's an exaggeration to say today, after Donald Trump, the left hates you more than any person on earth.
Yes, I appear to be number 2. I mean, if you're judged by the various signs
It's derangement. It's Trump derangement syndrome and Elon derangement syndrome.
Yes.
How is it that for you? That's a little bit of whiplash of going from being like Mr. Cool to the devil incarnate in just a couple of years. Is that kind of weird to experience that transformation?
Yes.
Why do they hate you so much?
Well, because we're clearly over the target. If DOGE was ineffective, if we were not actually getting rid of a bunch of waste and fraud, and a bunch of that fraud, the fraud we're seeing is overwhelmingly on the left. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not zero on the right, but these NGOs are almost all left-wing NGOs that are being funded, for example.
Yep.
So they hate me because DOGE is being effective, and DOGE is getting rid of a lot of waste and fraud that people on the left were taking advantage of. That's what it comes down to. And the single biggest thing that they're worried about is that DOGE is going to turn off fraudulent payments of entitlements. Everything from Social Security, Medicare, unemployment, disability, Small Business Administration loans, turn them off to illegals. This is the crux of the matter.
Yep.
Okay, this is the thing that why they really hit my guts and want me to die.
And do you think that's billions, hundreds of billions? What do you think the scale is of that?
I think across the country, it's well north of 100 billion, maybe 200 billion. By using entitlements fraud, the Democrats have been able to attract and retain vast numbers of illegal immigrants.
And buy voters.
And buy voters, exactly. They basically bring in, 10, 20 million people who are beholden to the Democrats for government handouts and will vote overwhelmingly Democrat, as has been demonstrated in California. This is
It's an election strategy. Yeah.
Yes.
It's power.
Yes. And it doesn't take much to turn the swing states blue. Often a swing state might be won by 10, 20,000 votes.
Sure.
So if the Dems can bring in 200,000 illegals and over time get them legalized, not counting any cheating that takes place, because there is some cheating, but even without cheating, if you bring in illegals that are 10x the voter differential in a swing state, it will no longer be a swing state.
Right.
And the Dems will win all the swing states, just a matter of time, and America will be permanent, deep blue socialist state. The House, the Senate, the presidency, and the Supreme Court will all go hardcore Dem. They will then further cement that by bringing in even more aliens, so you can't vote your way out of it.
Their objective is to make it permanent.
One-party socialist state. And it'll be much worse in California, because at least California is mitigated by the fact that someone can leave California.
Right, you can go to Texas.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what
but
you
they're
did.
going to make everywhere California but worse.
By the way, the middle of the pandemic, I spent 45 minutes on the phone with Elon. He was still in California. I was walking my dog, Snowflake, and trying to convince you, come to it. And you didn't quite go then, but you went not that long afterwards.
The COVID actions almost killed Tesla. Because they let every other auto plant in the country was allowed to open, but ours, which was in California, was not allowed to open.
Wow.
So they almost killed Tesla.
So
刚刚马斯克又爆了一个料哈，就是说为什么会有这些非营利组织，特别是 Joe Biden 执政期间，政府在大量去撒币哈，透过那个魔法计算机啊，叮叮啊，就直接就可以汇钱出去，就是为了要让那些 NGO 呢拿到大量的经费，除了流入到个人口袋之外，另外一个很大部分就是照顾非法移民嘛。那因为民主党的目的就是希望透过大量的看似的社会福利，凭空生出来的这些钱呢，去养非法移民，让他们好吃好住哈。我们之前其实也做过影片探讨到，民主党过去建立了大量的免费社会住宅，提供非法移民2年内可以完全不用缴水费、电费、房租费，免费的供他们来居住使用。马斯克就是很具体的把它串联起来。如果每年能够有这样子20万的从非法莫名其妙慢慢就变成合法公民的时候呢，这些人当然义无反顾的只会投给民主党。那民主党最终的目的就是希望成为一个一党独大。讲白一点啦，就是变成一个共产主义国家啦。希望在未来长期之下看不到民主制度的两党或多党的竞争的。那民主党其实羡慕的就是共产主义，所以这就为什么我之前在左派右派的影片里也讲，你只要是尝试从社会主义 一直走下去到极端的左派，那就是共产主义，那就是集权国家。而集权国家的背后的本质就是什么？就是政府最高统治者可以自由的决定想干嘛就干嘛，因为他背后已经是无神论思想，他没有敬畏上帝的思想，他就不会认为他做这些事情是不道德的。那或者是说，就算他知道这些事情是不道德，他也相信当他的权力越高的时候，他不道德的允许度就越高。这个就是人治的可怕，是完全失去掉了法治。OK， 我们继续看。
So, as a personal matter, do you ever regret it? Like 5 years ago, you go to the Oscars and we're Mr. Cool, and now you've got death threats every day. Like, do you?
Well, these days the Oscars are boring. I wouldn't want to go.
God bless the movies they nominate. No one on earth has ever seen. Like, could they actually nominate a movie that human beings go watch?
I mean, how many great movies have come out in the last several years? Very few.
Depressingly few.
Yeah, very few. The last Oscars came and went. I didn't even watch it. There's nothing to see.
I was sad that Gene Hackman just passed away because Unforgiven was spectacular, but that was a long time ago that Unforgiven came out.
You mentioned today here and before about the possibility of someone wanting to take you out, dealing with the death threats.
It's not in my imagination. You could just look on social media.
Yeah.
But like, is it because?
They make that very clear.
Yeah, and look, I'm very familiar with that.
And they've got signs. There are people with signs and demonstrations saying that I need to die.
Do you think, are these just whack jobs, or do you think there are foreign...
Not sane people.
Yeah.
Do you think there are foreign entities behind this? Do you think there are domestic entities behind the threats and also the attacks to Twitter, or not Twitter, Tesla? I mean, you're getting Tesla's charging stations lit on fire. Do you think that's organized and paid for?
Yes. At least some of it is organized and paid for. I think by domestic... basically left-wing organizations in America, funded by left-wing billionaires, essentially.
Is it like Act Blue or what?
Act Blue is one of them. There's Arabella, the classic. It's funded by the blue, basically the left-wing NGO cabal.
How big of a threat is this to like what you built at Tesla? I mean, I remember when Teslas came out, it was people that they didn't want to have gas cars. A lot of it was environmental reasons. I jokingly said, I was like, I'm a Texas guy. I'm always going to have something that burns gas. My kids now, all three of my boys, think that Teslas are awesome. The Cybertruck is the car they want their dad to buy, which I laugh because I never could have imagined that 5 years ago. And now I'm looking at...
Well, we're at the White House and the president's Tesla is parked right outside the West Wing, which is the coolest damn thing.
But I mean, you've changed a generation. When you look at my kids are 6 and 8 and they're going, Dad, buy a Cybertruck. And I'm considering it. That's a full circle in a weird way.
Yeah. Well, I do have this theory that the most entertaining outcome is the most likely. So, it seems often to be true. You see, like, what twist or turn of fate would generate the highest ratings? If we were a TV show, what twist or turn of fate would generate the highest ratings? There's a good chance that happens.
Well, I will say if Act Blue and Arabella Networks...
Act Blue is a huge scam, next level.
Do you think it's foreign money, Chinese money? Where do you think the money in Act Blue is coming from? And how do you figure that out?
Well, it's not coming from a whole bunch of... from a groundswell of public support. Yeah. Because when individual donors are looked at in Act Blue, a bunch of them turn out to be like diehard Republicans,
right? People
that have never given money in their life. So you're going to track down a bunch of these people where it says, "Oh, I gave $16,000," and they're like, "I didn't give $16,000. What are you talking about?"
Well, if those
Republican friends of mine found themselves on the Act Blue list, they're like, "It definitely wasn't me." So that's
if it can actually be shown that they are funding firebombing of Tesla charging stations. That's objectively a criminal act. That is funding terrorist activity, yeah. and the statutes make clear that an incendiary device qualifies. So that's a big deal.
Is a terrorist activity. Yeah.
前不久特斯拉的一个经销商就被人为纵火，那川普已经把它定义为恐怖攻击事件。目前大家就认为这个追究者最大的一个可能就是 Act Blue 所犯下的 那 ActBlue 是什么？ActBlue 它是一个专门为美国民主党的候选人和所谓的进步主义事业提供的一个线上募款服务的平台。那2004年就成立，目前居然已经筹集到了数十亿美金的资金哦。问题就是在于，刚刚 Elon Musk 就讲了，他们其实也查了 ActBlue 就是 ActBlue 根本上面它的募款者一大堆的名单，居然还出现共和党人你会觉得非常好笑。而这些共和党人，你去问他们的话，他们都说我们从来都没有捐助给 ActBlue。那马斯克的意思就是，其实 ActBlue 并不是表面上看起来都是小额募款它背后早就有庞大的资金一直在长期的灌给这些非营利组织讲白了一点，这就是一个白手套嘛，就是一个变相的一个敛财的工具。
You're 53 years old. I'm 118 days older than you. What the hell have I done in my life?
I know, right?
53 years old.
You did pretty well.
Well,
so 71 was a great year.
And I was December 70, so I was just right before.
Okay.
You were the summer of 71.
I was born 69 days after 420.
Wow. I did ask Ben.
This is true.
Look,
this is true. All right, you just opened up the can of words.
I did ask Ben, should I show up and pull up a joint and say, can we beat Rogan's views? But I was pretty sure it might cause a scandal if we smoke pot in the White House.
It just turned out to be like a chocolate cigar.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, if today was your last day on Earth.
Yeah. What?
I'm not suggesting it's going to be, but if it were, what do you think your biggest legacy would be? Of everything you've done, 100 years from now, what do you think people would remember if it were 0 to today?
And will you ever go to space?
In the distant future, 100 or 1,000 years ago, if SpaceX got humans to Mars, that's what they would remember me for.
All right, final set of questions. Who's the smartest guy you've ever met? You hang out with some brilliant people. Like when you look, what's a CEO you look at other than yourself? What CEO do you say, damn, that guy's good?
Larry Ellison's very smart. So I'll say Larry Ellison's one of the smartest people. Larry Page. I mean, there are a lot of people that are very smart. It's hard to say, I think to some degree smart is as smart does. So, what have they done that is difficult and significant? Jeff Bezos has done a lot of difficult and significant things. There are a lot of smart humans. I call them smart for a human. A lot of people who are in the smart for a human category.
All right, final lightning round. Star Wars or Star Trek?
The first movie I saw in the theater was Star Wars, so I think it had a profound effect on me. I was 6 years old, I think. Imagine if the first movie you ever see in a theater is Star Wars, it's going to blow your mind.
Best Star Wars movie?
Empire Strikes Back.
The only objectively right answer. I stood in line for 3 hours with my dad to see it on opening day. Kirk or Picard?
I like them both, but Kirk.
Again, objectively right answer. By the way, James T. Kirk is a Republican and Picard is a Democrat, and the left gets very mad when I say that.
Yeah.
Best Star Trek movie?
The first Star Trek movie, maybe?
Now that's in
Wrath of Khan. Wrath of Khan. Actually, both Wrath of Khans were pretty good. But yeah, the original Wrath of Khan.
Ricardo Montalban. Revenge is a dish best served cold. It is very cold in space. Yeah. Although I will say, Wrath of Khan is objectively the right answer, but 4 is a sleeper. When they go back to San Francisco and go find the whales, and Scotty picks up the mouth and talks to it, then goes, a keyboard, how quaint. That's a sleeper. All right, last question. Did Han shoot first?
It seemed like he shot second.
This is verdict. And by the way, I apologize, Ben. So Ben was a jock and played tennis at Ole Miss, and so occasionally when we geek out a little bit.
I love watching y'all geek out over there.
He might have shot first, though, because the guy
He's still on the question. I love it.
He missed the alien missed his blaster shot. So why did he miss his blaster shot? Must have been because he got shot first. Nobody's missing a point-blank blaster shot unless they got knocked off, killed.
But it's a question of real
but he was
consequence.
Going to shoot. Yeah.
Which is Han Solo simply a hero or an anti-hero? And so I'm in the Han shot first category. I don't like sanitized stories.
He would have had to have shot first because otherwise why would the alien miss a point-blank range?
Are you ever going to go to outer space? Is that something in your life goals?
Yeah, I'd like to go to Mars at some point. And people have said, do I want to die on Mars? And I say, yes, just not on impact.
Now, that's a very good answer. The astronauts on the space station, are they political prisoners?
Some of them are.
Because you could have given them a ride back, and Joe Biden said no, purely for politics.
Yeah, I mean, there's been some debate about this online, but the thing is that it was a very high-level decision. So it wasn't really even a NASA decision. Yeah. It was just that the Biden White House did not want to have someone who was pro-Trump rescuing astronauts right before the election.
这边我就必须说啊，前面什么星际大战讲电影那个我不管了，因为我不是星际大战迷，所以我不太研究那个。但是呢，这边是不是我们之前才刚做的一部谈到 Elon Musk 为什么要透过他自己的 SpaceX 的火箭协助 NASA 上去国际太空站营救那被困的2个太空人，对吧？而且我也提到过一个我个人猜测的观点，就是Joe Biden 之所以去年2024年拒绝了 Elon Musk 提出来这个建议，一直拖到川普当上总统才赶快的飞速去营救被困的2个太空人，就是因为 Joe Biden 本身已经知道 Elon Musk 会支持川普，而他不希望透过一个支持川普的人来协助他营救 NASA 的2名太空人。在这边呢，我的推论啊，没想到Elon Musk 自己他就是这么看待的哈，他认为这就是 Joe Biden 拒绝他的根本原因哦。左派口口声声说的人道关怀，好，所谓尊重少数团体，可是你看到在这么重要的一个太空人被困，原本是8天的任务，结果被迫延长了9个月都没有办法回家。这身心灵巨大的压力之下的太空生活哈，你甚至回来你要重新复健，好，因为为什么？因为你的小腿肌肉会快速的萎缩，你一开始的时候你的腿脚甚至是会没有力的哈，回来要慢慢做复健运动，要经过一段时间的复健才有办法再重新适应地球生活。所以我必须说，左派民主党真的非常非常的可恶哈，因为政治的因素 ，Joe Biden 居然就给他耽搁了这么久。我们换一个角度讲，如果要是今天川普没有当上总统的话，如果没有 SpaceX 马斯克出手相助，这件事情就不会在今年3月14号就能够提早发生。OK。
So they pushed it.
Well, if you're one of those astronauts, you got to be pretty pissed off about that.
Well, if they're a Democrat, yes. So a Republican, yes, but if they're a Democrat, like everything's fine.
Fair enough.
So I think one of them is a Republican, one is a Democrat. So it depends on which one you ask.
Well, thank you, Elon. This was awesome. And let me say, and by the way, I put out on X the day before yesterday, if you were having a beer with Elon and could ask him anything, what would you ask? And got lots of responses.
Yeah.
The most common response people said is say thank you. Look, right. Texans and the American people appreciate what you're doing.
Sure.
You don't have to put up with this BS, and you're doing it. I'm grateful. You're making a hell of a difference for this country. I appreciate you, and the Americans appreciate you. Thank you.
It's essential for the future of civilization. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing it.
Yes.
It's not like I want to get death threats, you know?
No. Don't forget, we do this show Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Hit that subscribe or auto download button from the White House. It's been a pleasure. Thanks.
好，那我们最后看完了，我个人觉得这一场的访谈非常的精彩。马斯克把目前他的专业团队所对于美国政府过去的积习弊病呢，给好好的深土挖掘啊，翻了又翻，找出了一大堆，包含我们今天听到不可思议的 Magic Money Computer 啊，魔术金钱电脑。那这个呢，都只能说明过去 Joe Biden 执政物价的通膨高涨。不是没有原因的。事实上，大家要明白其实真正造成高通膨的主要问题是大傻逼，是印钞票的量化宽松，而不是提高关税战。以后我放一集好好的专门来谈，为什么关税本身它并不影响到物价的通膨，而只有量化宽松才是真实的高通膨率。很高兴今天跟大家分享马斯克这一场深入的访谈。那我们至少呢从这里面就已经发现到啦原来美国政府的电脑是不得了的，可以说是阿拉丁神灯这个插一插呢，打几个按钮呢，就可以往外丢钱出去，非常的神奇。OK， 很高兴跟大家分享这么多。我们这边是超级神队友，我们就下部影片再见，拜拜。
NSRS, look at this, 29%. NBC News, you want to go lower than that? How about 27%? Both are record lows. The lowest going back to 1992 in CNN polling, the lowest going back on record to 1990 in NBC News polling. All I can say is I'm a big fan of the oldies, so I'm going to quote Chubby Checker. How low can you go?
Nice. Well done.
I think these numbers are low. How about this one? Holy Toledo. All voters disapprove. 68%. And look at the approved number, just 21%. This is the lowest on record for Democrats. You think these numbers are bad? Let's go to this side of the screen. Get this, just 40% approve. Horrible, horrible, horrible. Oh my goodness gracious, you just can't get worse than these numbers.
And this is the number right here really driving all of this.
You know what their attitude is? I made my money all by myself. How dare your government take my money from me? I don't want to pay taxes. Or, I built my company with my bare hands. How dare your government tell me how I should treat my customers, the land and water that I own, or my employees. They hate government. Government's a barrier to people, a barrier to stop them from doing things. They want to destroy it. We are not letting them do it, and we're united.
Okay.
These are the single most useless people in the United States. They have no skills whatsoever. They've got 3/4 of the money, and they didn't earn it. They set up a system precisely for the purpose of awarding themselves wealth and power when it's undeserved. You look at Liz Cheney and you ask yourself honestly, what skill could she possibly have that allowed her to send hundreds of thousands of people to their deaths? Did she earn that? I don't think she did. No fair system would make Liz Cheney powerful. No fair system would make Larry Fink rich. No fair system would elevate someone like Kamala Harris to a presidential nomination. She's never been accused of doing anything useful. She has precisely no achievements. She's a nominee without getting a single vote. She is a metaphor for the system they created to make themselves rich and powerful, and then they have the gall to lecture you, the people who can actually change a flat tire and repair a power grid, who have useful jobs, who pay your taxes and work 40 hours a week, lecture you that you are somehow immoral. And Donald Trump has empowered the rest of us through mostly just sticking around in the face of their hate and abuse and persecution. He has given the rest of us the right to call BS on the charade. No, you are not better than us.
This we know, the cornerstone is Christ alone, our hope now forever.